Welcome back, True Seeker. Looks like we got sound. Gonna got to make sure we got sound each episode. Been muted on a few of them. All right, yeah, looks like audio is good. So, what I want to talk about in this broadcast is one of the deaths in the headlines, Ian Gelder, who played the head of the Lannister family in Game of Thrones, dead at that infamous age of 74. Again, we often talk about why 3 of the first 5 U.S. presidents died on July 4th. We write it 7-4 in the U.S. Why the 74th day of the year is to remember the killing of Caesar, the Ides of March. So we're going to talk about his death at age 74 and how coincidental it is, or not, with his death in the show Game of Thrones, where he's killed by his son. His son shoots him with a crossbow. And yeah, we're going to look at the very clear parallel between the death in the show and now the reported death of him, and try and paint the bigger picture. And as strange as it might seem, I'm going to draw a parallel between this story in the news today and also this story in the news today. Michigan tornado damages FedEx facility. And we're going to talk about what's so interesting about this happening to FedEx on the day it did, and about how Game of Thrones, you might recall a big theme in that show is dragons. You know, the dragon lady, she brings about the dragons the first time they've existed in forever, and then they have this military dominance in the world. Remember, Lyndon Johnson, who became president after JFK's assassination, he said, "Who controls the weather controls the world." You know, that's what that Game of Thrones is about, to have the biggest military advantage to control the world. So we're going to talk about if this was Mother Nature that took out the FedEx, or obviously not dragons, but again, if you can imagine the metaphor, having this strategic advantage. Lyndon Johnson, the day he said that, was talking about what JFK had talked about in 1961, the future of weather control and how it could be an advantage to the world. And again, something like this, the destruction of a target, could be an advantage to an enemy. Imagine if you can weaponize the weather and literally aim it at strategic targets, and things like this can happen. Maybe it was a blessing. Maybe it was meant to take out the whole facility and only damage part of it. But anyway, we're going to talk about, is this Mother Nature, or is this the long history of the Jesuits? Again, if you guys don't know, the Jesuits also founded HBO. There's a reason Tony Soprano died 99 days after we got the first ever Jesuit Pope, Pope Francis, when The Sopranos came out in 99 on Jesuit-run HBO. But again, we're gonna paint some parallels here and say, is it all a big coincidence, or is something else going on? And I just had to check on YouTube, since it's Google Run, what comes up when you search weather control or weather warfare. One of the first things that comes up is a History Channel 4-minute segment of the unexplained about possibly the U.S. military conducting weather warfare experimentations in Bloomfield, Michigan during the time of the World War in 1942. Came back in the days of the Manhattan Project, early days of trying to develop these sophisticated weapons. One of them was weather, because if you could control the enemy's weather, you could have an impact. Just like how in Vietnam, the U.S. admitted to doing cloud seeding to increase the rainfall to flood out Vietnamese troops who depended on tunnels. Look up Operation Popeye. Look up the first act of admitted weather warfare, which goes back to the Jesuit order's birthday, August 15th, 1952, by the Royal Air Force. Again, we'll be talking about the Royal Air Force, the United Kingdom, the United States, how all these things come together. And if I have time, I also want to, again, remind about the Pluto rituals that are going on with Donald Trump and Plutocracy, and how the animal farm doesn't see it, but they got to snap out of it. 4 legs good, 2 legs bad is like the Donald Trump crowd. And that goes for the Biden crowd too. Don't get it twisted. But we got to get all these people to snap out of the coma. And again, Ian Gelder, dead at 74. Where to start? Notice it was announced that he died on May 7th. May 7th. We write it 5-7 in the US. They write it 7-5 in the UK. We're going to start with the 5-7. If you missed yesterday's videos, Stormy Daniels, in Gematria, just like Kevin Lannister with the way it's spelled from the show. And notice Kevin spelled it an interesting way. I've never met a Kevin who spelled it with an A in the first name, but that's how they have it for the show. This man played Kevin Lannister in the hit show Game of Thrones on Jesuit HBO. But his spelling equals 57, like Stormy Daniels, like Kendrick Lamar, like Aubrey Graham. All of their names equal 57. And again, those were all the big stories on May 7th in the U.S. The Kendrick Lamar Drake beef turns into a shooting at his mansion on 5/7 early in the morning. And again, Stormy Daniels takes the stand for the first time. So if you missed yesterday's coverage of the news May 7th, again, this is what we show, how day after day, how headlines are manufactured by a code, how these celebrity deaths, highly ritualistic. So we're just starting with the 5/7. If you're new here, Gematria is very simple. Within the English language, it's the alphabetic order. A is 1 up to Z is 26, the alphabetic order with numerology, and then the reverse alphabetic order, and the reverse alphabetic order with numerology. If you just take the alphabetic order, his birth name, Ian Gelder, is 75, and the date can be written 7/5 as they write it in the UK. So Ian Gelder with the alphabetic order, 75. Kevin Lannister with the alphabetic order and numerology, 57. You see how K's worth 2 in the top cipher? E's worth 5. E is the 5th letter. K's the 11th. 11 breaks down to 1 plus 1 is 2. V's the 22nd letter, the 3rd letter in Kevin. 22 is 2 plus 2 is 4. A is 1. And the 14th letter is 1 plus 4 is 5. So you just break each letter down to a single-digit number using its placement in the alphabetic order. L, for example, is the 12th letter. A's the 1st, B's the 2nd, C's the 3rd. By the time you get to L, it's 12. 1 plus 2 is 3. And again, there's a reason they taught us in alphabetic order. There's a reason a lot of us in our classrooms, we had A, B, C all around the top of the classroom with all the numbers counting right next to it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, old practice of coding numbers into words. And a lot of these numbers have a lot greater significance, which we'll get into, but we're going to keep it simple today. So just character name, birth name, fit in with the date. If you're new here, the most simple cipher, the alphabetic order. No numerology applied, just A is 1, B is 2, up to Z, the 26 letters, 26. If you take the alphabetic order, all these things equal 74. English, Gematria, Energy, Occult, Masonic, London, Killing, Stabbing. Again, the 74th day of the year to remember the killing of Caesar by stabbing. The phrase, the king equals 74. When Charles turned 74, there were all those deaths clearly connected to him. Like, for example, on his 74th birthday, King Charles, on his 74th birthday, you had 2 stories break in the news. They were both killings at college campuses. One was on Kings Road in Idaho, and the other was the Virginia Cavaliers. And where the name Cavaliers comes from in history is King Charles. Those who fought for him in the English Civil War were Cavaliers, and he was the son of King James, who has the Bible named after him. That's why King James LeBron with the Cavs won them their only championship on the real King James's birthday, June 19th in 2016. 2016, a bit like 216, the Cleveland area code, where the last game in Cleveland was Game 6. And there were 216 points in it. And we can get into what LeBron did last year with King Charles on his coronation on May 6th, 5/6. Huge 56 ritual with the Lakers, synced up with King Charles' coronation, wearing the purple and gold like royalty the Lakers do. Anyway, I'm going to snap back to this. This was announced on May 7th, this news, okay? Announced May 7th, where everything in the headlines that day was 57. But if you read the story, he died the day before, May 6th. And that's fitting. That's fitting. Royal family equals 56. You know, Game of Thrones has this idea of royal families, ruling families. Of course, coronation's 56. The last king of England died at age 56. Then King Charles gets his coronation on 5/6, which can also be written 6/5, as we'll get to in a minute, because it's also very important and it fits in with what happened here. But Society of Jesus, that's the formal title of the Jesuits, equals 56. Freemasons, the plural's 56. Modern Freemasonry, a Jesuit creation. You look at Washington, D.C., which equals 56. In the land of the 56 signers, the U.S., that's 56 signers on the Declaration of Independence that supposedly got us free from the Masons in England. Yeah, right. But D.C., the Jesuit Masonic city, 56. Huge number with ritual that we talk about all the time. Talked about in so many HBO-related deaths. HBO has that gematria of 56. So is the word Pope, and the Jesuits served the Pope. So anyhow, died on 5/6, May 6th, or 6/5. And notice, Game of Thrones, again, in the base ciphers, you see how Game of Thrones overlaps with the alphabetic order and numerology, and the reverse alphabetic order? Game of Thrones, United Kingdom, both 146. Game of Thrones United Kingdom boasts 65, like how he died on the 6th day of the 5th month. They write it 6-5 in the UK. Also 205 when you run the alphabetic order in reverse. Now the 205 is perfect because Charles Dolan, the Jesuit who founded HBO, who's still alive, the news broke on his 205th day of his age. Again, the news of the death broke May 7th, that he had passed the day prior, May 6th. And we've seen this time and time again where the news breaking is part of the ritual, as is the date of death. And again, I mean, it just all sums up way too perfectly, day after day. And we keep coming back to how we're on the calendar that's given to us by Christopher Clavius that says this man died on the 6th of May. Jesuit priest was Christopher Clavius. Again, at the same time, English standardized with 26-letter alphabet. The history of the English language going back to the Catholic Church, and so many other clues. There's only so many things in the world that could have pulled this off, and the Catholic Church is at the tippy top of the list, and all the history is on their side since we're on their calendar speaking their language. And that's how it all syncs up. And we keep talking about how you start to look. You're like, oh, look, the Jesuits run this thing too. Oh, wow, the Jesuits are behind this also. Starts to blow your mind once you start to pay attention. But yeah, day in and day out, just perfect rituals. And again, for the person who always asks, why do they do this? Remember, I got 2 books out there where I explain all this stuff in the opening chapters of both books, but it's because of Kabbalah. This is a spiritual belief system. If you've ever been part of a spiritual belief system and you've gotten down on your knees on Sunday and, for example, drank the blood of Christ and then ate his body as the minister does the cross on your forehead, on Ash Wednesday, you go away with a mark on your forehead and a cross. You just drank some blood, you ate the body. Why do you do that? You have a belief that that's the right thing to do because that's what the authorities told you. I don't know. These people ruling the world, they are the cabal into all this Kabbalah, and they are ruling. And again, you start to study it more. It's annoying being me because every day I get asked the same questions, even though I've written books about it. There's always a new person here. Why would they do this? It's just like, could you please read my books or watch a few more videos? But again, you got to explain this stuff to people day in and day out, and that's part of the reason people can't get it either, because they have such short attention spans, and just a lot of people are low cognitively because of the crap they feed their body with, so their mind doesn't work right. But anyway, I'm going to get back to it rather than get into that because time is limited and we got other topics to hit. But yeah, look how perfect this is. And then for the clincher, the superior general, the leader of the Jesuits, from his birthday to the date of death was his 177th day of his age. That also means the day it was announced, May 7th, would have been 177 days after his birthday or his 178th day of his age. I'm going to make the point why that's important. Because notice, this is a big number with the Jesuits. We're going to get into this with the weather stuff in a second. The Jesuit order 177, like New World Order. Okay. And again, the Illuminati was founded by the Jesuit Adam Weishaupt, and it's amazing how many things overlap with Illuminati, New World Order, Catholic Church, the word order alone, the Jesuit history. Almost all those words have a connection to 75, like how this date can be written 7-5. And keep in mind, the Superior General is 75 right now. But look how perfect that is. And then if you're saying, well, I need more than that, here's the more than that. The man who's dead, this actor from the show who played the king, the head of the Lannister family, he died in the episode on June 26th, 2016. June 26th is the 177th day of the year. And now he's dead on the 177th day of the Superior General's age, announced 177 days after his birthday, or again, his 178th day of his age. And I make the point about 178 because the word Kabbalah has a value of 178. It's a special number too. This is all Kabbalah that they're doing. The year this show came out that he dies in, that was the 178th day of the year because it was a leap year. But as I've always taught, in leap years, you really do got to look at both dates. And if you pay attention to this work day in and day out, you'll see how in leap years, how they make both numbers connect over and over. Just like how the 177, 178 now fits in with his demise. And the other thing about June 26th you don't want to forget is that date is written 26/6 in the majority of the world. The Jesuit motto, Isus Hominum Salvator, equates to 266. And Pope Francis is the first Jesuit Pope and the 266th. And over here in D.C., which has always been the Jesuit stronghold since before the Feds moved their capital there, again, showing you the Jesuit takeover. Again, the Jesuits came out of suppression in the time of the only 201 president, as we'll get to. But Again, when Pope Francis spoke in D.C., he did so on the 266th day of the year. Okay? So just think about all this just being a coincidence in light of what we're showing. I mean, we've covered so many deaths connected to HBO, young and old. For the person to come here and say, well, he was 74. Okay, how about the young actor from Euphoria who just died? And go back and see how perfect that ritual was. It's better than this one. It's more undeniable than this one. It connects more the world of entertainment, showing how all these people who made it on the world stage became part of this planned script and agenda, and how these people are again. There's all kinds of phrases for it: mad geniuses, clever devils. And now we live in the age of computers and AI that I'm sure can help, write these scripts for the perfectly planned news day in and day out. By the way, him dying at 74 and this all be connected with the Jesuits. Remember, they are the Society of Jesus. Jesus has the gematria 74, like cross, like Messiah, like gospel, like parables. Again, like English, like gematria, like occult, like Masonic, like London, like Marley, like Bob Marley starts his solo career in 74 in London. And then Aston Barrett just dies on his 74th day of his age right before they put out the new Bob Marley movie. And there was a lot more to it than that. If you haven't seen Aston Barrett's death on the 74th day of his age, this number comes up all the time. My last book, Number Games. I start the book with 74. Why that number is so connected to death and killing, and why it matters that they simulated the coronavirus pandemic on October 18th, the day leaving 74 days left in the year. Again, Lucifer also equals 74. Lucifer with the parallels to Satan. Satan falls to earth in Luke 10:18, like how they simulated that pandemic on 10/18, October 18th, 13 days before Halloween. And again, it went with the sister simulation, Clade X being exactly 666 days before the pandemic was declared. And Clade X equals 113, like coronavirus pandemic, like it was declared on 11/3. And Revelation means apocalypse. And apocalypse is also 113. And an apocalypse is a moment of, enlightenment or change. For a lot of people, it was. A lot of people woke up. But again, you guys, it's like more people should have woke up so we could have put this game to bed, this cabal to bed. And yeah, I challenge anyone in the world to come up and tell me that I'm tripping, because haven't I been here all year pointing out 87 ritual after 87 ritual in the time of the Pope being 87, and it just builds by the day? In light of this being the year of the dragon and Game of Thrones having all that to do with dragons, isn't it funny that this guy's death was announced 87 days after the year of the dragon began? That means he died 86 days after. We know about blood sacrifice and human sacrifice equating to 86, and 86 means to get rid of. That also means yesterday would have been the 87th day of the year of the dragon, whereas today's 87 days after the day it's announced. But either way, it has this 87 connection. And again, the Pope's 87 right now. This news announced on the Pope's 144th day of his age, Jesuit Order 144. Rome and England, both 57. Like the date can be written 5-7. Let's not forget the United States of America equals 144. DC, always the Jesuit stronghold, was once called Rome on the Potomac. Year of the Dragon matches up with Biden and Trump in a big way too. So I realize we need to keep a better count of this Year of the Dragon. Seeing this today, just snap that. I was like, oh yeah, Game of Thrones, dragons. But think about it, guys. Perfectly on the day he dies, 6/5 in the UK, on the 205th day of the Jesuit founder of HBO, it's announced. 65-205. People come at me with a question like, how can you verify these ciphers are true? I'm like, well, I've been verifying it for a decade. Get caught up. Watch the daily work and tell me where I am wrong. Okay, so 177, we just made a huge point about, right? In his death, he dies on the show on the 177th day of the year. Look at this. Michigan FedEx gets wiped out, right? On the 177th day of the Superior General's age. And again, the Jesuit Order and weather control both equal 177. By the way, the one clip that comes up on YouTube about weather control right at the top is this one. And it starts with this 4-minute segment from this History Channel, The Unexplained, how there might have been a weather control experiment in Bloomfield, Michigan. This is what it talks about. I hadn't heard this one before, so I was glad I looked this up. But look at Bloomfield, you guys, 177, right? Bloomfield's 177, like weather control, like the Jesuit Order. And notice how the weather control in the Jesuit Order overlap in several ciphers. And if you've been here for years, we've been showing crazy weather things and how these numbers come up again and again and again and again and again. Again, when part of Yellowstone got wiped out the other year, that was June 13th, the day leaving 201 days left in the year. And there's a lot more to say about that. But think about it. Yesterday was the 177th day of this, or excuse me, it was 177 days after the Superior General's 75th birthday. Look at weather control, 177 and 75, right? 177 and 75. And understand, everyone should care about this. This destruction is why all of our rates just keep rising steadily, because they're saying, yeah, there's just all these unprecedented acts of just Mother Nature right now, really, making it hard for us insurance companies. We're having to do a lot of payouts. So collectively, to make sure everyone's still insured, we just got to raise premiums a little bit higher. Again, you guys, agenda. May 7th, 2024 had 56 date numerology. Climate change equals 56, like Paris, France, like Washington, D.C., like Society of Jesus. The climate accords going back to Paris. Pope Francis, the first Jesuit pope. And again, the Jesuits are from France. The founder, Ignatius Loyola, died in 1556 in France. The last French pope was the 201st pope in the history of the church. But again, just beyond these numbers right here, the further proof that this is deeper than just the calendar and numbers is, again, look into the first act of admitted weather warfare. It comes from the United Kingdom. Game of Thrones had that big United Kingdom theme. But the first act of weather warfare admitted to on August 15th, 1952, the Lynmouth flood that killed 30-some people, where the air reeked of sulfur and just like a crazy, unprecedented, not even close to comparable amount of water fell out of the sky and wiped out people, like instantly. And then the military admitted to it decades later. They didn't admit to it right away, but you go back to the day you see it happen, you're like, oh, it was the Jesuit order's birthday, August 15th, 1952. Same date in history, Albert Pike's letter about 3 world wars was published. And then Netanyahu comes back on Albert Pike's birthday, and the Third World War, which they're now trying to say is just they're not sure if it's a credible letter that he ever wrote. There was never a push like that before a decade ago to dismiss Albert Pike's letter. But the way you can know it's true is by seeing how they're trying to discredit, but how they still perform the same rituals around it. If you guys have missed all my work on January 6th and why that happened 201 days after Albert Pike's statue came down in D.C., which came out of the George Floyd riots, which were compared to a GematriaEffectNews in Paris, France, which happened 201 weeks earlier on the 201st day of the year, which that year was a leap year, July 19th, 2016. George Perry Floyd's a big 201. Again, you guys, these Jesuit combo numbers are in so many things. The leader of Russia dies on 17/7. Catherine the Great becomes the leader and preserves the Jesuit order with 201 Jesuit priests. Captain Tom gets knighted on July 17th and dies 201 days later. The Queen gets COVID and dies 201 days later, right after Captain Tom, who she knighted. Klaus Schwab equals 177, the Jesuit leader of the World Economic Forum who hosted Event 201, the pandemic simulation, and on and on and on. Don't forget, this year, on the leap year, July 19th, 2024, they're putting out the movie about the new tornado movie. Comes out on the 201st day of the year this year. July 19th, 2016. But yes, I understand Michigan gets some tornadoes a year. They're not the typical tornado target. And to target to nail a FedEx, and I mean, with all the packages in transit, it's just going to create a wrench and a big expense, and another reason that insurance costs need to rise for everyone. But yeah, do these things really look like an accident? The 177th day of the Superior General being 75, and then the thing is, the Pope's 87 right now. Again, all these 87 rituals for the Pope that we've been documenting all year. Tornado equals 87. Pavilion Township's the other place that got hit in Michigan that wiped out a trailer park. I mean, remember Agenda 2030? I was telling you guys this stuff a decade ago. I said that nice writing, well, not quite a decade ago, but Agenda 2030 was near the start of the early days of my research. Go back and check if that was 2015. Might have been 2016. I remember Obama was there in New York on the 54th day of being 54 years old. 54 is another huge Jesuit cabal number. Their headquarters is at the House of the Jesu 54. But I was saying back then, it says to eliminate all poverty by 2030. And I'm like, these psychopaths, that could mean like getting rid of these people. So when I hear about the Pavilion Township trailer park getting wrecked by the tornado, synced up with the Superior General, I'm thinking these look like strategic targets. How well can we do this? How well can we instigate in the area? Can we then steer it to the target? And think about that too. Just like how they experimented with big bombs below and above ground for 50 years. In that time, you had some of the weirdest storms and tornadoes in U.S. history. Again, I just think people haven't been connecting the dots. And I think they're putting it in our face in recent years by calling storms nuclear and bomb cyclones. Again, all this terminology you hear if you just listen to the news. Nuclear storm, bomb cyclone? What? Target headlines for days before hurricanes hit places, and the CNN will be using like storm is like a targeted missile. It's like, come on, man. And then anyway, just imagine that I'm not tripping. So again, this happened in Kalamazoo County. What in the Kalamazoo? Kalamazoo's got that Gematria 95, like the Jesuits were created to counter the 95 Theses written by Martin Luther, and they took out MLK in a big Jesuit ritual on the 95th day of 1968, and then they gave us the nation's first ever gun control legislation 201 days later. Like Pope Francis, the first Jesuit Pope, the first in Suite 201 at the Vatican, and a million other things. Like, again, Martin Luther pinned the 95 Theses, and then exactly 201 months later, the Jesuit order was created. These numbers go way back. James Madison, 201. The only 201 U.S. president is when the Jesuits came out of suppression. After 41 years, when USA equals 41, which is the 13th prime, and how they got us all just pledging to 13 stripes and saying big words when we're little kids, probably putting us under some kind of spelling hypnosis where we give way too much credit to this corrupt authority because it seems like that's what it is for most people. They're okay living under the tyranny and not asking questions. For the record, from the Jesuit order's birthday, August 15th, to the tornado was 266 days later. Again, we're in the time of the 266th Pope, who's 87, when the Jesuit motto, Isus Omnum Salvator, is 266. And again, he spoke in D.C. on the 266th day of the year, September 23rd, 2015, which is kind of like 23/9, which is like 239, the 52nd prime, and Pope equals 52 to go with the 52-week calendar year. Now, the first act of weather warfare was admitted to in 52. But yeah, how funny. After I decoded this morning, I was like, I'm going to see what comes up on weather control. And I was like, look at that. The first damn thing that comes up, this History Channel special. You see, it was published April 3rd, 2020. That's typically the 93rd day of the year, but in a leap year, it's the 94th. Bloomfield, Michigan equals 94, like Roman Catholic Church. HARP has the big 93-94 connection. Just let you think about that one. But Bloomfield, again, like Jesuit order, like weather control. And I think I forgot to say it earlier. I think I forgot to mention when Lyndon Johnson said, who controls the weather controls the world, he did it at Holy Cross Jesuit University, where Anthony Fauci went, who oversaw the pandemic after Event 201, who participated in about a bazillion Jesuit rituals, several 201s in the time all that was going on. But Lyndon Johnson said 201 days after JFK was assassinated. If you look it up, you'll see it was June 10th, 1964. 201 days after the 201 days after the JFK assassination, November 22nd, 1963, Lyndon Johnson said at the Jesuit University, who controls the weather, controls the world. And this year, there's been some really weird tornado stuff. And again, they're literally putting out the new Twisters movie on the 201st day of this year. And I've been here teaching about this for a long time now, way before all this stuff happened. Part of me is like kicking myself for not just putting out the book that I had pretty much written 3 years ago on 201, but it's way better now. I mean, that's the thing about me not finishing the book. It allows me to condense more and find better examples and just like, okay, I don't even need 5 examples. This one example right here proves my point. You got to be brain dead to not get this. But some people are. By the way, with regards to April 3rd typically being the 93rd day of the year, Bloomfield the other way is also 93. And again, Bloomfield, Michigan, the small way is 94. And that's what I mean, which is like in a leap year, you got to pay attention to, okay, it's April 3rd, typically the 93rd day of the year, but also the 94th. And remember, that's a special day too. That's a special day. That's the day in history that they say about more than a decade ago, around 2012, a lot of science articles are written or syndicated. I think it was one big scientific study, but syndicated by all kinds of mainstream publications about how science had traced Jesus' crucifixion to April 3rd. And it's just like that date is so perfect because it's typically the 93rd day of the year. Crucifix equals 93, God's Son equals 93, Nazareth equals 93, Christianity and Sumerian gematria is 930. Again, we're talking about the Society of Jesus. His story channel, again, history equals 42, like Jesuit, like Georgetown. How connected do you think Georgetown is, the first Jesuit university, to the things that everybody's reading about in all school and university? The word school is 72, like Jesuit order. University is 54, like Jesuit order. The sun moves 1 degree on the astrological wheel every 72 years. Sun equals 54. The Jesuit logo, the sun. The sun 93 million miles away on average. And then the other nickname for the sun is Helios, which equals 94, the big way, like Roman Catholic Church. And planet also equals 94. And in classic times, the sun was a planet. The 7 days of the week are named after the 7 classical planets, the things that move around in the sky. And yeah, there's a lot more to say about this, but yeah, just what are the odds? What are the odds? I love synchronicity because it was like I was looking at this right here, putting this post together on this, and I'm like, I'm going to see what comes up on YouTube if I type in weather control, weather warfare, and that was the first thing that popped up, and it just right away just start to look. Oh, same number I'm talking about today. What do you know? Must be another coincidence. It's crazy how many coincidences are around here. And also, you guys, let's not forget that we had May 7th circled for a date of another maybe possibly destructive act in America. We circled that back talking in the time of Baltimore because what happened in Baltimore at 1:28? Remember? At 1:28, the bridge collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge, 128 days from Francis Scott Key's upcoming birthday on the 128th day of Biden's age, when Biden was in Pittsburgh on 1:28 a couple of years ago, and the Fern Hollow Bridge collapse, and then Gematria Bridge collapse is 1:28 like Fern Hollow, and on and on and on. What they encoded in the new Obama film with the 128s, including the bridge being blown up in New York at the 128th minute of the film. Obama's wingman, Joe Biden. Rituals from Hollywood to the news to History Channel, one cabal controlling it all. Anyway, yeah, this was the 128th day of the year. So ended up being a FedEx facility. And just for the record, FedEx does have that gematria 44, like military, like HARP. Big military numbers 44. There's a reason NATO was created on April 4th. So yeah, I'll have to do another stream later. Again, we're going to talk about how important Pluto's 248-year cycle is, to Donald Trump's mugshot on 24/8 last year, to him getting a break in court on the Illuminati's 248th birthday. It's funny, if you go back and read my August 24th work on his mugshot, we were pointing to what was synced up with the 248th birthday of the Illuminati and the Jesuit Bavaria tribute. And then lo and behold, Trump's in the name of a court. Hold on. Let me get this one in real quick because I wanted to do a longer thing on this. We'll do it longer, but I got to at least get a little bit in. Or I typed in gematria. Let's see. 248, New York. See if I can type in enough words here to get the proper search. We want to go back to okay, that's from his August 24th surrender. I think this is the one we want right here. Okay. There's a lot here that's interesting, but yeah, again, right when the court began too, we said, oh, here we're getting closer to that Illuminati birthday. And what do you know? Now he's in Manhattan Criminal Court, 248. President Donald Trump, 248. Again, Trump had his mugshot on 24/8. And it matters because President Donald Trump equals 248 in gematria, just like Manhattan Criminal Court. But then it was this year. We wrote this before, but then literally on the Illuminati's birthday, May 1st, they gave Trump a break so that he could campaign that day. It's like, come on, man. And we've been talking about Donald Trump and the Illuminati for so long because Donald Trump equals 48, just like Illuminati, like Hollywood, like Freemason. Go back and look at George Washington's letter from way back in the 1700s. His concerns about the Illuminati taking over Freemasonry, religion, other institutions. Again, Donald Trump, the joke that he'd be president from Obama at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, April 30th, 2011, the 45th birthday of the Church of Satan, 45 days before Trump's upcoming birthday, and then he becomes number 45. Again, Meg is the highest degree of the Church of Satan. Anton LaVey died 201 days from his own birthday, but also 201 days from the Pope's birthday that year. Again, 201. Another number they put with it all the time is 56. Like Society of Jesus is 56. The Jesuit Order is 201. Church of Satan's another 56. The satanic ritual with Event 201. By the way, the Holy Bible equals 201. So many biblical rituals with what they did with the pandemic, and people just didn't see it. But the first confirmed case in the world initially was 56 days from Event 201. And then as time went on, they backed it up to November 17th, the day leaving 44 days left in the year. The big military number reminding us that Event 201 was the day of the military World Games. And then Pfizer made a big profit, and Pfizer equals 44 like military. It's funny. You start to look at the 44s. It's interesting. The word medicine is 44, hospitals 44. It's like, how long does this evil plan go back? 44 is associated with death. Just makes me wonder how long they've been purposefully controlling the medical world and using medical for strategic death when need be. Kind of thing James Bond's doing stuff. You know, they have us glorify these intelligence agencies. By the way, if you watch this, shoot. If you watch this unexplained segment on YouTube, if you look this up, the unexplained weather control weaponized, if you look this up, he gets into the CIA right away, where the CIA's involvement is here. And remember, the CIA was established on the 201st day of the sitting Pope's age. The words in their logo, Central Intelligence Agency, United States of America equal 201, and their motto, the work of a nation, the center of intelligence equals 201. And again, what if that is just the work of a nation? And to keep the work of the nation, they got to control the weather because the enemy's going to control the weather. Maybe at one point there were some white hats in there, like people like to believe, and they were trying to do it for the right reasons. But then the bad people got in there and they hijacked the technology, like the evil villains in a James Bond movie. But unlike Hollywood, the good guys aren't winning; they're getting smoked. Like evil's just ruling. Here, we know how to pacify you. We'll just always keep giving you the movie with the false ending, which is the happy ending, because that's what you want to see, because that doesn't happen in your reality. So here, we'll let you achieve it weekly. You'll just give us money to see it. We'll keep you stupefied, fluoridated, well-fed, plump, entertained. Just keep paying the taxes. Don't ask the questions. We'll smear the shit out of you if you ask any questions. Just enjoy the Friday night releases on Netflix and keep on that weekly grind. And we thank you. We are the Illuminati that actually we're not. We're not revealing that we're the Illuminati, but we run your puppet government that you're so invested in. All right. Yeah, I'll leave it there for now, Truth Seeker. Thank you again to everyone who hits the like and the share. Shout out to John Mendoza, always with the generosity. Shout out to Logan Thomas, who I got to see when I go down to Oregon. I do got your mic. It says Operation Gomorrah in Hamburg is another example of how they can manipulate weather. Castaway from Hank's FedEx plane goes down an offshore tornado. Is that right? It was an offshore tornado? God, Tom Hanks born in 56. It was a tornado? I was just thinking it was some kind of storm at sea. Okay, I got to look up that's exactly how it is. Offshore tornado. Wow. Tom Hanks, what's his birthday? Is it July 9th, 56? Hold on. I'm going to look into this angle later. Tom Hanks, date of birth. Yeah, July 9th, 56. Again, I knew for sure he was born in 56 because of everything they did with him with the major 56 pandemic. And 7-9 was big in it too. Remember Anthony Fauci's 56, like the name of the virus, and they declared the pandemic on his 79th day of being 79 years old, and Society of Jesus equals 56 and 79, and those numbers were just used in the Baltimore Bridge collapse on Nancy Pelosi's birthday and a million other things. Anyway, July 9th. Let's see. His last birthday to the FedEx place getting hit on May 7th. Hey, I'm going to have to do a proper decode. There could be something. If this is correct that it was an offshore tornado, interesting. 303 days later, we know tornado, the small way, is 33. That means it would have been, what, 63 days to his upcoming birthday? 9 weeks? I don't know. I'll look more into that angle, but that is interesting. They definitely synced up some rituals with Tom Hanks and former co-stars of his that aren't here anymore that went out in Jesuit rituals, just like the one we just talked about with Ian Gelder. We need a Tom Hanks of the world. Hey, do you remember when Tom Hanks said he was losing to his wife? His first statement after they supposedly got sick with COVID, and by the way, it was all synced up with Sleepless in Seattle, the movie, but his first statement when he was nursing up supposedly was on like Instagram or Twitter. Wanted to his wife in gin rummy by 201 points. Come on, man. Anyway, we'll leave it there for now. Again, thank you to everyone who hits the like and the share. And until next time.